It's The Log. I'm Charles Purcell. Another day, another week, another weekend behind us. Monday. Wisconsin, my home state of Wisconsin, record high 20% of COVID-19 tests coming back positive. 20%. Oh, mercy. Yep, we are trapped in a pandemic spiral. That's how the Atlantic put it last week. Of course, the only way out of this thing, and we've known it for 6 months, is to have massive testing and tracing, quarantine, isolate those affected, and support them while they isolate. And then those who are healthy can go out and do the work that needs to be done. All non-essential work can take some time off. If it takes a year or two, doesn't matter. We've known, we just know. We know, but it's not going to happen because the Orange Menace and his minions have already established that it's just not going to happen. Proper protocols, strategies, policies, even in their simplest forms, face masks, social distancing, it's not going to happen. Half the population is just not cooperating, so unless and until we can convince them to cooperate, this is just where we are now. Dr. Fauci tells us over the weekend that we can expect another year of this, because even under a best-case scenario where we get a vaccine, it's going to take much or most of the next year to tamp this thing down. But if you're one of those who just chooses to ignore it, I guess life is just fine. Just ignore it as long as you can. All right. The Orange Menace absolutely flaunting the rules. He and his merry band of deplorables, filling up airport hangars. The rallies now are becoming more and more frequent and more blatant in their disregard for state orders and policies. Just everywhere he goes, he's breaking rules. Gleefully. There'll be rules of groups of no more than 10 people or no more than 50 people. Whatever the rules, he's just breaking them. And they're just reveling in it. A big indoor rally. Indoors. Yeah. Indoors last night in Nevada. We saw the research last week regarding the Sturgis motorcycle rally, and how it was estimated that alone could have been possible for nearly 20% of new COVID cases in the United States. Super spreader. I read that CNN didn't even send a crew in for their own good, for their own safety, which is unheard of except in times of war. Certain war zones, CNN might withhold reporters. But other than that, this is unprecedented. Well, since we spoke last, the annual Fighting Bob Fest happened. And of course, like everything else except for the deplorables get-togethers, virtually, online. So, the good news is, it's just waiting for you online. If you're not familiar with the Fighting Bob Fest, it's been around for, I think this is their 19th year, something like that. It's an annual event in the style of the old-fashioned Chautauqua, speakers, entertainment, and it's all the best of the best progressive personalities getting together to have a little rally and talk. So, just go ahead and search Fighting Bob Fest on YouTube, and they'll get you right to it. Speakers include Tammy Baldwin and Mark Pocan of Wisconsin, as well as Mandela Barnes. Other speakers, Ruth Conniff, John Nichols, Jim Hightower, Greg Palast. If you're not familiar with Greg Palast, you need to be. This is a very serious journalist and advocate for fair elections. And he's just one of the best voices out there, sounding the alarm about election security. Now, he wears this stupid fedora. Don't let that turn you off. He looks like a jerk. he's got like this persona that he's invented of kind of a private eye. A film noir, 1940s, 50s kind of a private eye with a trench coat and a fedora. And it's really off-putting. Get past that. Okay? Don't let that turn you off. But seek him out, read his work, listen when he talks. Greg Palast, Palast, if you're not familiar. Very important work. And then musical segments at the Fighting Bob Fest this year. Joan Baez, C. Khan, the Cactus Blossoms, among others. So, in the age of social media, which has too many issues to name, that's the good news, that we can just go ahead and dial up whatever we want to see afterwards. So it's there waiting for you. It's there waiting for you. Speaking of social media, apparently there's a new documentary on Netflix that's making quite an uproar. The Social Dilemma. I have not seen it yet. All I know is that my friends are raving about it. So I'll tell you more about The Social Dilemma if and when I see it. It's on Netflix, so I'll have to steal somebody's code. You know me, I pay for nothing. There's no streaming into my house. I refuse to pay for any media. Refuse. So let's check that out together. Yeah, I'll just steal somebody's Netflix. Speaking of Fighting Bob Fest, now this goes back a couple of weeks, but again, it's there waiting for you online, and that is the People's Convention 2020. And I'm pretty sure we've already talked about it, but I just want to encourage you to do the same thing. Just go to YouTube or wherever, type in People's Convention 2020, and the whole thing is there. It's 5+ hours, and it's fantastic. And there you're going to see Nina Turner, Brother Cornel West, and many, many others. And it's pretty fantastic. Especially they did it immediately following the two major party conventions. And it's just such a wonderful breath of fresh air when you really hear true progressives talking about the issues, talking about how we get to solutions. Really very inspiring. You want to do that. People's Convention 2020 took place on August 30th, but it's waiting for you online. What else can I recommend? This is all about watching things so far. Did you watch the big Princess Bride reunion last night? Oh, that was a good time. I enjoyed that very much. Over a nicely little produced Zoom call, which was kind of raw in many ways, which is fine. You can come to expect that these days. Yeah, the entire cast, as Rob Reiner, director, put it in the beginning, anybody who's not dead is here tonight. If they're dead, they're not here. But if they're not dead, the entire cast is here. And they did a reading, each from their own private Zoom room in their homes. Yeah, they did a full reading of the script of Princess Bride, and it was wonderful. And yeah, every single one of them, they were all there. Carrie Elways and Robin Wright as the Princess Bride, and Wesley. Of course, Andre the Giant we lost a few years ago, but Josh Gad did a really great job. A nice little homage. So I'm quite sure you could find that online if you want to see it. It was a wonderful experience watching it live. Of course, it was a fundraiser for WisDems, the Wisconsin Democratic Party, in their efforts to defeat the Orange Menace. Initial figures show that more than 110,000 people tuned in, which means 110,000 people contributed because that's what you had to do. There was no minimum. You could contribute $1. So I haven't seen the numbers yet on how much they raised. It's got to be at least a couple 100,000, probably much, much more than that. Let's see. Are there numbers on that? I'm scrolling here to see. Well, I haven't got the numbers. It was very entertaining, really great. Kind of a Q&A conversation afterwards with the entire cast. And my buddy Wallace Shawn, who of course played Vizzini. Oh, what a wonderful performance last night. What a great performance. And we talked about this last week, but I'll repeat. If you're too cool for Princess Bride, if you think Princess Bride is too basic, then you are just trying way, way too hard to be cool. No. Princess Bride, universally beloved, and just nothing but praise for that little idea, that little production last night. It was really great. And the Q&A was really entertaining as well. I enjoyed it. Wallace Shawn maybe had the best moment of the night when he compared the Orange Menace to the villain of Princess Bride, Humperdinck. And then, of course, his evil henchmen as the yes men and sycophants that do his bidding in the White House. Nice little moment of clarity there and apt analogy from one of my favorite people in the whole world, Wallace Shawn. Did I ever tell you about the time I met him? I think I told you this story already. It was in San Francisco. He was going to do a reading. And just before the reading, I met him in the lobby of the theater because I was running a little late. Everybody else was already in there and seated, and I was coming in at the very last minute. And I run into Wallace Shawn, and I say, "Hey, aren't you supposed to be on stage?" He said, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to be there in a minute." And we spoke for a little while, and he was very nice guy. Yeah, I think I told you that story already. I'm of the age now, you'll have to forgive me. I'm going to repeat stories from time to time. I hope you'll forgive me. Oh, let's see. Well, what else? Oh my God. The West Coast, the fires. I heard one guy say that there's too many trees in our forests. It's just a note I have in front of me. I don't remember who said this. Some official. I just remember thinking how absurd that was. How can there be too many trees in a forest? I mean, I understand what he's talking about. Here's something that needs to be said. The Orange Menace, whose skin tone matches the skies over San Francisco these days, he wants to talk about forest management all the time. And he wants to blame California and blame Democrats especially for not raking the floors, right? Okay, insanity. Now, here's something we have to watch for, though. Generally, the idea of forest management is a very big issue, and it is part of the problem. So we have to be careful, all of us, all the time, because of how much disdain we have for the Orange Menace, that everything, every single thing out of his mouth, we have to automatically disagree with. Not only disagree with, but ignore, mock, defy. So I'm not saying we have to agree with him, but we can't let the idea of management be just tossed aside because it comes out of his creepy little anus mouth. Okay, so it's just a little warning here, because questions of management definitely need to be in the discussion, absolutely, along with everything else. And, of course, at the very top of the list, climate change, which we've been warned about for decades. There's nothing surprising about this. There's nothing about this that couldn't have been predicted and wasn't indeed predicted time and time again over decades. So public policy, forest management, the way we develop, things that are a million miles over my pay grade. I guess this is just a little warning, like with everything else. Don't be like all the amateur epidemiologists on Facebook, pretending they know all about COVID-19. Don't follow in their footsteps and pretend you know all about fires and fire prevention and fire management and forest management. Don't get up on that high horse and pretend you know what you don't know. This goes a million miles over my pay grade. But any reasonable reading of the experts in the field will tell you that this is a very complicated issue with many fronts. It's a multifaceted problem with multifaceted solutions. And for my money, and this is where I will offer my perspective, of all the many problems, of all the many fronts and layers and facets, in the end it comes back to money and consumption, like everything else, like every damn thing else in the world. Like every damn problem we have, it's our obsession with consumption, which has been created and amplified every step of the way by the mother of all problems, and that's profit. Profit right at the center, the vortex that's sucking us in every minute of every waking hour of every day. On that same newscast over the weekend, I think it was the NewsHour Friday night, Governor Kate Brown of Oregon was being asked about both the fires and Black Lives Matter, because that continues. And she pulled out the old quote from Martin Luther King, "Riots are the language of the unheard." Okay, good, I agree. But then she was asked about the future. Well, what are the future of these protests? And she gave a very disappointing answer. She said, well, this will take years. No, why do I keep hearing this from everybody, from all ends of the spectrum, that it's going to take years? I don't accept that. No, it's unacceptable. If riots are the language of the unheard, well, then it's time to hear them. It's time to hear the unheard and act immediately. At least show them immediately that they are heard. More than just painting slogans on the street pavement. Occasionally, once or twice a week, we'll see some little story which gives me some hope. I think it was the Denver city budget where they're reallocating funds from the police to more appropriate agencies. And you'll see stories like this occasionally, and that's good. But no, whenever somebody, and you'll hear it all the time, when everybody starts saying, oh, well, this is going to take years. No, don't accept that. Don't accept it. I'm calling for emergency legislation right now, emergency sessions of every damn city council, of every state legislature, of the U.S. House and Senate, emergency sessions, pass legislation now, meaningful legislation. Oh, here's one other weekend note here. Of course, Friday, the last time we spoke, was the anniversary, the commemoration of the attacks on 9/11, 19 years ago. And I'm sorry, more disappointment. And I read way too much of this. This is a post I saw talking about 19 years ago. No matter our political views, Americans stood together. Today we are at war within our own borders, and many have forgotten who we are and what we stand for. It is time to stand together with our fellow Americans of all colors, races, and creeds. We are one America. I hate stuff like this. It's so vapid and it's so pointless. It's just somebody's little post here, remembering, trying to be all... You know what? First of all, it's not true. To the extent that America was all one on 9/11, of course we all grieved together. And of course we all praised the first responders. That was a no-brainer. Every single person from every extreme of the spectrum could agree on that. But that's where the agreement ended. And the post-9/11 world has been nothing but conflict. Our response. So that was a very sort of trite and common refrain that I kept hearing all through Friday and into the weekend about how 9/11 brought us all together. And why can't we be like that now? I'll tell you the aspect of that with which I agree. It would be nice if we could actually mourn the death of thousands of Americans. We can't even seem to do that anymore. So on that front, I'm going to agree with you. At least 19 years ago, we had the decency to mourn death. Now half the country has gone so far off the rails that 2 or 3 9/11s every single week means nothing. Oh, well, That's just the cost of freedom. Senator Ron Johnson, maybe the worst guy in the Senate, wrote this. As we remember the lives lost on this solemn day, let us also remember the unity and patriotism that pulled us together as our nation grieved. No, nothing good came from 9/11. Nothing good came from 9/11. Unity? No, there's no unity. The only difference is we hadn't as yet become completely defiled by the Republican Party. Not quite. So most of us still had the common decency to grieve people who died. If, God forbid, something like that happened again today, half the country would find some reason to say, they had it coming to them. Or Alex Jones would declare a false flag and say it never happened. Well, let's see. We got to give one more little note here, and then I probably won't talk about it much anymore. But one more little note to the NFL. Sunday, of course, the big day, all the games. The one I was interested in, of course, was my Green Bay Packers, who traveled up to Minneapolis to meet the Vikings. And we've talked the last couple days about the whole NFL thing and their response to Black Lives Matter. And I guess we don't have to go over the whole thing again. Just, I will say this. Lift Every Voice, I finally really sat down and listened to this thing. First of all, I think it's really weird and disturbing that we have a black national anthem and then the regular national anthem. This is just, I don't know how helpful this is. It's really weird. But I got to tell you, Lift Every Voice and Sing. If you haven't heard it, this is quite a wonderful little anthem. It's got the sound of an anthem, or kind of a hymn motif to it. And the lyrics are just beautiful. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. I like that, a little acknowledgement of the dark past. And yet, continuing here, sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Are you kidding me? Now that's an anthem right there. Can we toss the Star-Spangled Banner in a trash bin forever? Let's just get rid of that old tired thing. That thing that glorifies war. No, I never liked the Star-Spangled Banner. Never did. It's a terrible song. It's a terrible national anthem. Oh, if we could just chuck it. Yeah, this Lift Every Voice and Sing is a hell of a song. Hell of a song. Who in their right mind could not love that lyric right there? If you're going to have an anthem, if you're going to sing a song, make it that one. Now, if I had my way, there'd be no such thing as an official anthem. To have an official national anthem? To stand and recite a pledge of allegiance to a flag? No. I'm with the Amish on this. That's crazy. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to pledge allegiance to anybody. That's my affair. That's religious. Yeah, that level of forced patriotism or coerced patriotism is just way beyond what I favor. No, I'd chuck it all. But all I'm saying is, if you insist on having an anthem, lift every voice and sing. I'm sorry, there it is. That's fantastic. And then just some final words on the whole. Oh, man. The whole theme of the NFL's approach here is unity. And if you listen to the heartfelt speechifying from the broadcasters, from the players, the official slogans they're allowed to paint in the end zones or put on the back of the helmets, it's all about getting together. It's all about unity, which in and of itself isn't a bad thing, but not as a response to the moment we're in. I keep saying, racism is not something we solve by just hugging each other and getting along and locking arms and singing together. No. Racism is a crime against humanity. Systemic racism is a crime that's been allowed to continue for centuries. And when a crime has been committed, the guilty need to be sentenced, laws need to change, reparations needs to happen. A large systemic problem steeped in law can only be solved by large systemic solutions born in the law. All this feel-good unity stuff is crap. You don't invite the rapist and his victim to come together on the courthouse floor and give each other a big hug and decide that, oh, we're all going to love and respect each other. No. The rapist committed a crime, a heinous crime for which he must be punished and for which restitution must be demanded. That's what racism is. That's what systemic racism is. A crime for which restitution must be ordered and compelled by law. Lose your little happy talk. Lose your little lock arms and unity stuff. No. It's completely inappropriate. It's not helping. In fact, it's doing just the opposite. It's letting everybody off the hook. It's minimizing, it's trivializing the real problem. But of course, in the world of corporate wokeness, it's the only thing that's really acceptable. Yeah, I've had it. A more appropriate response was when my Milwaukee Bucks refused to come out on the floor and play an NBA game. And then every other team followed suit. But then after a couple of days off, that all-powerful vortex of money, the money pit sucked us in again, tossed a few concessions, just enough, at the players to get them back on the floor. And corporate America and the money pit was once again victorious with very little price to pay. In an alternate universe, the Bucks and all of the other teams stay in the locker room, leave the locker room, hit the streets, as does every other sports franchise in America, and then every other franchise in America, and then every American. And then we all hit the streets, refuse to play, refuse to work, refuse to buy, refuse to consume. And we stay on the streets in a general strike until this thing is done. Anyway, that's the way I feel about it. I don't know about you. But let me know. I'm easy to find. Facebook, Charles Purcell, charlespurcell.com, charlespurcell@gmail. Let me know what you think. All right, that's the log for today. I love you. I'll talk to you tomorrow.